Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to bring you guys another character review, and who better than Black Panther, the King of Wakanda. He was in the Civil War movie most recently, did an excellent job. He recently in this game got a rework to a lot of his skills and his leadership and his passive, and he's basically turned around from zero to hero. So I thought it would be a really interesting case to take a character like this and review them now that they are fresh. Probably a lot of people have seen them being talked about as a good investment, whereas a few months ago they were seen as a terrible investment, even the uniform, which I now have. So I definitely wanted and thought it would be a great idea to cover someone so important in the comics, and also someone who is now a mainstay in the game. So let's jump right into it. What are the pros of Black Panther? Well, he's got a lot of crowd control on his skills. He's got stuns, he's got iframes, and he's got a good way to scale his damage, both with his skills and with his leadership. His tier 2 passive brings that to the next level and even gives him a damage reduction. So overall, solidly a great character. The only negative I would put against Black Panther, or actually I would say two negatives. For one, you do need to have maximum skill cooldown to make effective use of all of his skills. Otherwise, with a suboptimal skill cooldown time, you will find yourself in trouble and having to kite around a lot and potentially getting hit. And then also his kit in general, his skills total, don't do a lot of AoE damage. So he's not very good at clearing out mobs. He's not very good at killing lots of small minions or summons. But he is excellent for single target damage. Even in things like Shadowlands where you have a rumble, that's fine. But once you get into larger groups of like double digits, then it starts to become a problem for the King of Wakanda. He's missing splash damage. Now, as far as the gear options go for Black Panther, you want to go with something like this. On the first gear, he has physical attack and crit rate. You want to keep rolling physical attack by level on the first 1 or 2 slots, as long as you get above 50%. And then the rest of them can just be physical attack or all attack. So this last one should definitely be re-rolled, but you should just re-roll it manually, because you might get all attack or you might get physical attack, and then you just waste less gold. The Vibranium Weave Uniform, excellent secondary stat of HP. That's really good for his survivability. You want to roll physical defense by level, or actually you should probably roll energy defense by level, since most high level and strong characters in the game and bosses deal energy damage. So re-roll those to energy defense by level unless you prefer physical, and then the rest should be all defense. His Vibranium boots, unfortunately, do not have HP, but they do have movement speed and attack speed, which are both actually pretty useful stats. Attack speed more useful than movement speed. But you want to, again, roll HP by level, a percent stat for the first 2, and then the rest should be regular HP. His 4th stat has crit damage and defense penetration, which are both very good. You want to prioritize first skill cooldown until you get to at least 36% on all of your gears, which you can check out from the details page here at the bottom right. If you don't have 36%, if you by rolling all of these to skill cooldown, then you might find some difficulty in your playing of Black Panther. But once you hit 36, you can start rolling for other things like defense penetration. If you do hit defense penetration cap of 50%, the ignore defense line, then you would probably want to roll for something like crit damage. Why I don't suggest to roll for crit rate unless you have a lot of crit damage already is because Black Panther's leadership, King of Wakanda, applies a 15% base increase to crit rate, which is fantastic, and it will boost that stat if you need it to, so you can focus more on crit damage. As far as obelisks go, my obelisk is not the perfect one, but it's pretty good. Black Panther has a lot of survivability and a lot of immunity with both his 5th skill, Unseen Predator, his tier 2 passive, and the iframes that are built into his skills. So he doesn't really need an invincibility obelisk. I think if you're playing him manually and you're not doing a lot of player versus player interactions, that would be a bit of an overkill. What you should instead focus on is either crit rate, crit damage, or defense penetration as your first orange stat, and then you want to get something like a damage proc, like I have there, 110% increased damage for 1 time, and then you want to try to roll something like immune to guard break. Black Panther does have a little bit of a wind up on some of his skills, and if he is interrupted before that, he does become extremely vulnerable. But that would be like your best case scenario. If you can roll something like this with one offensive stat in the purple line, in the orange line, and then a yellow stat that offers a damage proc, that would be fantastic. As far as the skills go, the only one that you definitely do need to upgrade to level 6 with gold is the Unseen Predator, because it's going to increase the amount of accumulated true damage that then helps buff your crit rate and all attack. So the other ones you can probably leave at level 1 or at level 3 if you like to do it the way I do it, but that one definitely, spend the gold and get that to level 6, especially if you're playing with the character regularly. As far as an ISO 8 set goes, the same logic that I would apply to not rolling an obelisk that has invincibility proc for Black Panther is the same logic that I would apply here for the ISO 8 set. If Black Panther is constantly dodging attacks because he has iframes, or he's activating his immunity on the Unseen Predator skill, why would you need something like I Am Also Groot, Drastic Density Enhancement, or Stark Backing? The answer is you don't. So you should definitely go for one of the 3 offensive sets like Hawk's Eye, Overdrive, or Power of Angry Hulk. It really just depends on whether you need cooldown time if you don't have very strong cooldown stats from your cards, or if you need more defense penetration. I find that newer players were probably happier with Hawk's Eye because they're still getting their skill cooldown up, and usually more veteran players already have skill cooldown capped, so they want to go with something like defense penetration on Power of Angry Hulk or Overdrive. But definitely settle for the first one you get, because it's really painful to roll ISO 8 sets and then just tailor your character around that. As for Black Panther's uniform, it's not particularly good. It is good because it offers him the 10% to all attack and all defense, and then you can upgrade that further with the new uniform upgrade system, which is fantastic. The increased bleed damage is really not useful because in a lot of modes it just doesn't apply, World Boss specifically or particularly. It does apply in Shadowland, but I don't think Black Panther really needs a lot of help, and I don't think the bleed damage is necessarily useful enough or even valuable enough. Like, it's hard to weigh the value of it. The Civil War uniform is good primarily for the skill, the bonus stats that it offers, but also the skill changes. It does make, I believe, his 4th skill, Essence of the Panther, a full iframe, as opposed to being a temporary or a transitioning iframe like a lot of other ones where it's intermittent. So if you do have the 750 crystals when it's on sale to get this one, you should definitely get it. It also makes Black Panther look way better. I'm sorry, the modern look just doesn't do it for me. This one is just way far and away cooler looking, and here's hoping he'll get another uniform later on down the road because, you know, he's got a lot of iconic looks to choose from. Let's check out some gameplay against the world boss Proxima Midnight. We're going to use a pretty iconic Black Panther centric team. It's in the name of the king with Thor, and this is probably the best team up to use for Black Panther. You do have to use his leadership, which may not be ideal, but in my case I do have a lot of physical attack from my cards, so the 15% increase crit rate is actually better in some instances than the 30% physical attack. Similarly with someone like Kate Bishop, I do have her slotted as the leadership instead of someone like Winter Soldier for that crit rate increase. This particular team up is actually quite good because you get the defense penetration, max HP, and attack speed, and all attack. With 10% or 11% max HP, it does make a noticeable difference in the world boss. We're going to go in without any strikers because I highly doubt that I do need any of them. Once in a while, Thor or Black Bolt will come out and help me with a little bit of striker damage, but you're going to get a very true representation of just how powerful Black Panther is, and this is just at tier 1. At tier 2, he gets an all speed increase, he gets a skill and bonus damage buff. As far as the skill rotation for Black Panther, you want to make sure that you always open with his 5th skill because it's going to give you both the immunity and the damage buff. You then want to cycle through his other skills until you are back to the 4th skill. So use the 4th skill last before you go back to the 5th, because the 4th skill does have a long iframe that will protect Black Panther while he's on cooldown from his 5th skill. If you are worried about taking some damage in between those 2 instances, you can use his 3rd skill, which offers an instant iframe, although brief. And you can also interrupt his 4th skill, as you're going to see me do here, because if you interrupt it, there's a much lower chance that you'll take damage in between the 4th skill and the 5th skill. If you let the 4th skill finish, then there is a pretty good chance that you're going to take damage on the way down, as I just did there. Otherwise, if you do the skill canceling, you should not take any damage in between skill rotations. There is a brief period where he can take damage. There's a very brief moment. So he also will take dot damage, as you can see, regardless of being immune. So you do need to be careful about that. But it's basically just a pretty straightforward rotation of skills, and if you're quick enough and if you have enough skill cooldown, then you will not take any damage, aside from, you know, a few instances if the world boss does get away from you and you can't chain your skills appropriately. But I would recommend for most people, if your skill cooldown is high enough, that you cancel out of the 4th skill, especially if you're going to be face tanking the world boss like this, especially for world bosses that do a lot of melee damage like Black Dwarf. You can get pretty easily punished if you do not skill cancel the 4th skill, because at the end he is quite vulnerable to you know, a little bit of damage. So there we did get hit. We got stunned as well, which is really bad, but I think this is going to be the last shot. So there we go, under 2 minutes to kill the world boss. We did take a lot of damage there at the end just by accident, because we got stunned outside of our iframes and outside of our immunity. It could probably go down to close to a minute if you have strikers, and probably even less than that if you have Black Panther at tier 2. Very safe character, very easy to use. It just basically relies on your ability to chain his skills correctly, and also your skill cooldown. That's the very important part, so that's why I kind of leveled that as a negative against him, because without enough skill cooldown, thank you for the Dimension Rift, but without enough skill cooldown, it's going to be quite difficult to use Black Panther, and you will need to dodge a lot of attacks, learn the patterns, and get a little bit lucky. As far as other game modes go, Black Panther does respectably in story mode. He does pretty well clearing special missions if you're looking for someone to clear them quickly. He does have very snappy animations, and he does good single target damage to enemies. He's quite useful in Villain Siege if you need him for that. I would say that Black Panther is probably not the best to bring into Timeline, but if you are going to play manually, as you saw, you can have his immunity up all the time, and there are very few characters who have immunity Pierce immunity, so you won't run into that too often, but there are like a lot better players or a lot better characters that you could employ for yourself in Timeline. As far as Alliance Battle goes, he is a pretty respectable trade-in for Moon Knight if you don't have Moon Knight tier 2 as a combat hero. I'm sure that he can get above 100,000 points if you play him and gear him correctly for Extreme Alliance Battle, so that's another fantastic option for him. And then he's actually very good in Shadowland, even at tier 1 with, you know, 15 gears. I'm sure that your Black Panther can clear stage 1 if you play him correctly and you have enough skill cooldown, and I'm sure that tier 2 Black Panthers have probably gone all the way to stage 25 with the type advantage against Daredevil being possessed by some demon, so that's a pretty fantastic show for him as well. If you want to farm Black Panther's bios, you just gotta hit up the chapter 8.1 Shredding Reality story. You only get 10 per day, so it's not a lot, but it is consistent because it's from the story mode, so you can build up your Black Panther pretty quickly. All in all, guys, I do have to say that I think Black Panther is the best reworked character in the game. He went from nothing, thank you for the Dimension Rift, to a very viable, very useful, you know, upper mid-tier character. And I'm just so happy for him, and that's why I was kind of urged and I felt the need to cover him in a standalone review, because a lot has been said about the character over the course of his existence in the game. A lot of it has been negative, but now I only have mostly good things to say. So if you guys don't have Black Panther and you need a serviceable combat hero, he is definitely someone you should think about investing in. So let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Let me know what you think of Black Panther. I honestly think he is the most useful reworked character, but let me know who you guys feel is the best in that category. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.